The human body has a core temperature of 37 degrees. This is what homeostasis will try to maintain. Homeostasis is the regulations of body systems to maintain a stable environment within a narrow limit. The thermoneutral zone is where the heat production of a body will stay at a fairly constant rate. This is where the body temperature is quite comfortable. This means the body does not have to generate extra heat to keep the body warm or release heat from the body. This external temperature for the thermoneutral zone is 25 to 30 degrees Celsius for a naked human at rest. If the human was wearing clothing and in a controlled environment like an air-conditioned house, it would be more like 18 to 22 degrees. Your body can generate heat externally or internally. Firstly, you can generate heat through muscle contraction. Now this could occur when you exercise. Another method is through a metabolic process. This is when food is broken down in your stomach. This creates heat. A way you can gain heat externally is through conduction. This is the transfer of heat between two materials in direct contact with each other. For example, a hot water bottle. There are four main ways body temperature is lost. Firstly, there is radiation. This is heat that is expelled from the body in the form of infraheat rays. This is how living animals are picked up on infrared cameras. Secondly, there is evaporation. Evaporation is the loss of water through the surface of the skin. This occurs when you sweat. Thirdly, there is conduction. As I said before, conduction can be a source of heat, but it can be also a source of heat loss. If you have an ice pack in your skin, it will cause the blood around the surface area to cool down, lowering your body temperature. Finally, there is convection. This is the loss of heat from the transfer of air or water moving around the body. The nervous system is made up of two main parts, the C and S. This is the central nervous system that contains the brain and the spinal cord. The other section is the PNS. This is the peripheral nervous system. The hypothalamus is the gland that controls the temperature regulation in the body. It tries to keep an internal temperature balance of around 37 degrees. The hypothalamus does this with the use of sensors in the skin. If the sensor in the skin detects a change in temperature, it will send a signal to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus will then react to the stimulus detected. It will either try to preserve the heat or reduce heat, depending on the stimulus. Let's have a closer look at the hypothalamus. As we can see, the hypothalamus can control many functions to maintain homeostasis of the temperature in the body. Some of the automatic responses that occur include shivering. Shivering is a use of muscle contraction, and as we know from before, muscle contraction provides heat. Another effect could include the change of blood pressure. As we can see from the diagram, the hypothalamus also controls water balance in the human body. As I said before, the hypothalamus can control blood pressure. It can do this by either vasoconstriction, which conserves heat, or vasodilation, which increases heat loss. Vasoconstriction is when blood vessels are narrowed down. This causes the blood flow to slow down. This is why running cold water over a cut helps stop the bleeding. Vasodilation is when blood vessels widen. This increases blood flow and also increases temperature loss. This is because blood runs closer to the surface of the skin where it can lose heat through convection. This is why you would bleed more from a cut in a hot climate like the desert than you would if you were to be bleeding in the cold climate like the snow. Sensory neuron sends information from the sensory receptors. Receptors could be the skin, tongue, eyes, nose, or ears. These send information towards the central nervous system. Interneurons. These neurons are responsible for receiving a message and then passing it on to the next neuron. They send information between a sensory neuron and a motor neuron. They are mostly found around the central nervous system. Dendrites receive information from another neuron, while the axons send the information onto another neuron or a gland or muscle. Motor neurons. These neurons receive information from the central nervous system and they deliver the message to a muscle or a gland to cause an effect. Here's how it all works together. Let's have a look at the body when it gets too hot. The stimulus will be the change in temperature. The thermoreceptors, or the sensory neurons, will detect the change and then start sending a message to the hypothalamus. Along the way, the sensory neurons will send the message to the interneurons that will deliver the message to the thermoreceptors in the hypothalamus, also the control center in this case. The hypothalamus will then send a message to the sweat glands through the motor neurons. In response, they will cause the body to sweat. This will cause heat loss. Negative feedback is the reaction that is taking place to stabilize the stimulus. So the hypothalamus telling the body to sweat is the negative feedback in response to the body getting too hot, which is the stimulus.